if you're on the Open Lab, to get set up, let's say we're just on the main Open Lab page. I'm gonna log in. And we have been posting stuff on the class blog, so it lives on the class blog. But if you would like it to be on your own portfolio, you may already have a portfolio. If not, you can create a portfolio. So if you go to your profile, so where it says My Profile, you click on My Profile. You may see a portfolio site here. If you don't see this link, then we can go over how to create it. But there's a couple things that we need to set up in the portfolio first. So if you click on the My Portfolio site, that's going to actually take you to a class, a website like our class blog. But before we do that, we need to go to Portfolio Home. This is the Open Lab page for the portfolio. And we need to change some settings. So under settings, there's a couple things that we need to change. You can, of course, change the name of the portfolio. You can add an avatar, do stuff that you want on here. But the main thing, first, we want to, this privacy setting doesn't really matter. What actually matters is under either site or settings. So under the site, you can actually change the link here if you want, but it's going to create a default link, and so let's just leave that. And then this button I usually uncheck. This says Show the WordPress admin bar. This is like so that it doesn't look different when other people are logged into it. But I'm going to turn this off because if you're sending somebody a portfolio, you don't really want like random WordPress stuff on it. But then here is the associated site privacy settings. So this is where if you want it to be publicly available to, like, if you're sending this to an internship or employer, or you're just sending it to people online, you can choose one of the public options, either allow search engines to index the site, that's if you want the site to be more discoverable, or ask search engines not to index the site. So the default is going to be one of these private options, and if you want to send this to people, you have to make sure to turn it to public. So you can make changes and then click the Save Changes button here. And then under Settings, there's this widget called Add to My Portfolio. And this is going to allow you to add stuff that you've posted on the class blog onto your own portfolio site. So you definitely want to click Enable Add to My Portfolio and click Save Changes there. Okay, so now we're ready to set up the portfolio site. So I'm going to go over here. And before we do this, I'm going to go over a couple different things that you can do, but let's look at a couple portfolio sites as examples first. One site that I like is actually a sound designer. I'm not sure if that's the right studio. I was showing this in my animation class the other day, but this is a sound designer. I like this because it's just very, very straightforward. It just starts with an introductory text explaining, what the site is, and then it has different types of work divided into different categories: animation, exhibitions, commissions, and then if you keep scrolling, you see different types of work. It's just very straightforward and very simple. So something like this is very easy to understand what the person does and to view some of their work. You can see their awards, and then there's a sort of grid of different projects that they've worked on. And if you're interested in a project, you can click into that project. You'll see a video, and it's all very, very simple and straightforward, but well designed. So this is a good example of like a really simple, basic site. It has a couple of very simple design choices, like the blue color and this combination of two fonts. There's this kind of nicer serif font for the titles, and then a very simple sans serif font for the text. So it's a very simple, very nice website. Another one that's sort of on the other end of portfolio design, developer named Bruno Simon. This is like a fully 3D gamified portfolio website. So I think it's kind of a good example of like all the way on the other end, where this is actually written in JavaScript using a 3D module called 3JS, and you use this little car to kind of explore this 3D scene. And it even has links. If I hover over these boxes and I hit enter, it opens this developer's social media links. And then if we want to see their work, we can drive over here and see different projects that they've worked on. And there's some images, and then if we want to open the project, we can hit enter. And we see another website. So this is, of course, in itself, it's almost a portfolio piece because the website itself is so well designed and very comprehensive, and it's almost it has these like little mini games inside of it, and so this is kind of on the other end of, obviously this would take a lot of work and programming and development to create something like this, but this can also be a good way to do a portfolio. So those are sort of like opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of how much work goes into it and how sort of novel they are. There's a lot of things that are kind of like in different parts of that spectrum that may be more appropriate. But let's look at creating our own portfolio. So with the Open Lab, we are a little bit limited, and I'll sort of talk about that in a second, but we can very easily add content to the site. So it's very easy to collect different posts. So let's imagine that I wanted to add some posts from my different courses to my portfolio. I'm going to go over to my MMP 100 class page. And so for all of the posts that I've made, so if I scroll down and I find my name, and of course you guys all can click on your own names to open your own pages. I can, if I really liked a project that I created in this class and I want to add it to my portfolio, I can scroll down and look through my various projects, and I can say, this project turned out really well. I really want to include this in my portfolio. Once I've enabled that Add to Portfolio button, you're going to see that button there. If you haven't added that, you're not going to see it, so you're going to need to add it here. So I'll click Add to Portfolio. You can choose either a post or a page. Post is probably the most appropriate for this. You can change the title if you want, and you can add this other stuff, and then click Add to Portfolio. And so now if I go back to my portfolio page and I reload this, we're not going to see it quite yet, but if I go to my dashboard and go to my posts, there's this self-portrait that I just added. So by default, it's not going to be publicly posted. So it's just going to add it to your page here, but you're going to have to actually publish it. So if I open this up, I can edit it. I could make changes. I could delete some stuff that I don't want to include. But once I'm ready and I like it, I can click Publish. And so now when I go to my site, you can see there's my self-portrait. So notice that the self-portrait that I just posted doesn't look like some of the other projects that I have on here. And that's because it doesn't have a featured image. So we haven't been adding those when we post our work in class. But for most WordPress-based websites, having a featured image is very important for the design and layout of the site. So to add that, I'm going to click on this self-portrait and go to the Edit button. And there's an area for the featured image under this Post area. So this is into the menu, under Post. I can set the featured image. And then I can set it to one of these posts, or I can upload something from my computer. So maybe I'll find my self-portrait project. I think it's this one. And I can upload that image. and I'll click Set Featured Image and Update. And now, if I go to my home page, you can see now it has an image, so it matches the layout and the design of the post. So when you're working on a portfolio, the featured image is not actually part of the post. The rest of the post, or it can be, you can see it has this featured image as kind of the main top image, and then it has the rest of the post down here. So it can be part of it, but we can also take that out. So that's how you can add content. And of course, as I mentioned, you can edit it, you can make changes, you can also make completely new posts that aren't from any of your courses and add whatever you want in here. But the next thing that you'll want to do is design your page a little bit. So to do that, as I mentioned, we're a little bit limited in terms of what we can do with the Open Lab because we have a certain number of themes that we have to work with. But if we want to change the way the design looks, we can go to Appearance and go to Themes. And you can see there's a bunch of different themes here. I was testing out the very new theme, 2023, which is the most recent WordPress theme, which has some nice options. We have a bunch of different themes that you can try. Most of them are WordPress default themes, which have gotten a little bit better over the years. But they all have kind of different approaches that may or may not be appropriate for what you're looking for. You can try out different themes. So for example, if I thought that this Fluida theme looked good, I could click Live Preview here, and I can see how it's going to look on my blog and decide if this looks better or worse than what I've already got. And I might say that looks pretty good, but I want to make some changes, so I can, maybe I want to take out this header image. Let's see if I can do that. I can set the header image height to 0. So that effectively does what I want it to do. So that maybe looks better. And so I can play around with this. I can also play around with the colors. So I could say, I want a different primary color for my content. Maybe I want to choose a different color to match some of my portfolio content. And then if I like this, I can click Activate and Publish. But if I don't like it, I can just get rid of this and it'll go back to the default theme that I have. So I've been playing around with this 2023 theme. I haven't obviously finished it because you can see some of the typography doesn't match. So I could go in and edit some of this. The nice thing about this, it's a little more advanced, so I can go in and I can actually edit very specific components of the theme. If I click on this style button, I can click over here and go to typography and choose different styles, or I can go to colors and choose colors. And so if I want this text to be a little bit different, I could choose that. Although this is a link, so I'd have to choose the link. And so that'll change all of the links on the page. So I might like something like that. I can click Save, and that'll update the page. So when we open this, if we sent this to somebody, usually what I like to do is open an incognito tab, so I can just hit Control-Shift-N and paste this link in here. But that's the wrong one. I'm just going to copy this link here. And this is what my portfolio will look like if I send it to somebody who's not part of the Open Lab. So this has some links to some different courses. I probably would want to get rid of the comments. That's another option. There's a bunch of different things that I may want to change in here. I can change the menu. I have an external link to my own personal website. I have an About page. So you can play around with all these different options. And we can also change the menu. If I go in here, if I go back to the dashboard, go to Appearance, and where's Menus? Oh, it doesn't have menu there anymore. That's weird. I guess with this one, I have to change the menu. Oh, I guess there's navigation. Okay, so I can add. So this is a little different than the old version of WordPress, but let's add. Can I add something here? This is a little bit different than the old version of WordPress. So I'd have to. Oh, here we go. I can add. Okay, so I can add posts. So if I wanted to add the self-portrait that I just added, it doesn't show up. Okay, let's try a page link. No. Let's remove that. Let's try adding browse. Oh, there we go. Post link. Okay, so then I can add self-portrait, and I can move it around. And then I can also put it inside of this other section if I want it to drop down. So this editing system is a little bit different than the regular WordPress. It's a little janky, but that's okay. So I'm just going to get out of here for now so I don't save this. Okay, so you can choose different themes. You can customize the colors and typography. It will take a little while to get something that actually really looks as good as the example that we looked at previously, but it's going to be a similar process of any other portfolio website that you might use. So you can create that portfolio and then you can add content through it throughout BMCC. So when you take an animation class, or you take a video class, or you take game design, whatever it happens to be, you can add all those projects into the same place. And so you'll have a very simple page where people can see everything that you've created throughout your career at BMCC that you can send to anyone. And as I mentioned, it's really going to be more important than any other component of applying for jobs or getting work or even applying for transfer to another school or things like that. People are really more interested in your creative work than they necessarily might be in your grades or other things like that. All right.